Good morning. Oh, that's high. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me in the back there? Good. My name is Kevin Hunt. I am the veteran agent for the City of Newburyport, something that I have enjoyed doing for the last 13 years. And since we do a Veterans Day and a Memorial Day every year, actually, this is the 26th time I will be standing in front of you, talking to you and hopefully intelligently talking to you. Thank you all for joining us on this beautiful spring day. You know, we had to make the plans yesterday. I know it's not raining, and I know we possibly could have been outdoors, but we can't do it as quickly as today and make that decision. Normally at this point, I would say please join me in welcoming Major Todd Hughes from the Salvation Army, who would give us the invocation. I got a phone call that Major Hughes has suffered a medical emergency, not life-threatening, and he is unable to join us. So if you will please rise. The invocation. Heavenly Father, please grant a speedy recovery to Major Todd Hughes so he can be back on his feet offering spiritual assistance to the citizens of Newburyport. We thank you, Lord, for the beneficial rain which has pulled us out of a drought. We thank you for the end of a pandemic which saw all of us stretched to a breaking point. We ask that the new normal that comes from this pandemic be a new normal that we can appreciate and that we not take for granted. A new normal that might elevate us so that we can lead better lives and stay above that level of taking it all for granted. We would also ask that we may come together again, that we really do come together, and the sharp divisions among us dissolve into ways for us to agree and to compromise and to smile again. We pray these things in your name, Lord. Amen. Please remain standing. I'd like to have Sergeant Steve Cohen join me here on the stage. Sergeant Cohen is going to sing the national anthem for us. Sergeant Cohen is also the band director for Newburyport High School Band, and we'll be hearing more from him later on. He has also performed the national anthem at the Boston Garden at least a dozen times, 2 of those solo, as he will do this morning. Sergeant Cohen.
Thank you. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Order! Oh!
Thank you, Sergeant Cohen, and we will now remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like the local scouts to join me in the front here on the stage, and we are going to be led the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to pass the microphone down to whomever wants to be in the middle and have it. Little finger pointing going on here. You want to take it?
Now in a nice loud voice.
Will you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was very well done. That's good. Now, I would now like to introduce the host of today's ceremonies, the Mayor of Newburyport, Donna D. Holliday.
Good morning. It is Good morning. It is wonderful to see all of you. This is our first event in City Hall in 16 months or so, and it's really nice to actually see everyone. We've made it. We've worked really hard, and thank you to our veterans, to everyone in Newburyport who really worked hard to get us to this point. It's a pleasure to see you all here today. I'd like to take a moment and introduce the platform behind me. Senator Diana DiZoglio. Our state rep, Jim Kelkhorst. City Council President, Jared Iverman. City Councilors at Large, Afroz Khan. Bruce Vogel. Barry Powell. Our Ward 5 Councilor, Jim McCauley. At-large Councilor Charlie Tontar. Ward 3 Councilor Heather Shan. And of course, William Shuttleworth. You know it. And I would ask that you also give our Veteran Service Officer, Kevin Hunt, a big round of applause. Now, I'd like to offer an opportunity, one more person. Where's Kelly Rodeo? Here she is over there. Okay, so it's really nice to I'd like to give our Senator, Diana DiZoglio, a few moments to address you.
Thank you, Mayor Holliday. Good morning, everyone. What a great honor to be here with all of you as we remember those lost, those who made the ultimate sacrifice for all of our freedoms here today. It is my humble honor to join you here today. I have been asked to keep my remarks incredibly brief. We have a very large speaking program here today. But I did just want to mention one thing. In sitting here today, noticing all of the children in this room, in the front row over here, we have some toddlers, we have some children, we have some preteens, we have some teens. It's not often that when I go to these types of events in different communities that I see a whole lot of children out, that I see a whole lot of youth out. And I just want to thank you in the city of Newburyport for bringing out your kids and for engaging the youth on the importance of coming together in solemnity for days like today, where we honor those in our community who made the ultimate sacrifice, and we honor the families that they left behind. I think that it's so wonderful when I see us all gathered here today, and what a great crowd it is today, to offer love, to offer support. And it's also incredibly important that we pass that on to the next generation. And I am just incredibly inspired to see you all here, to see all of the young people here leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and just want to offer my sincerest gratitude for offering the opportunity to join you here today to again remember those who have sacrificed. And while I'm at it, I do think it's important to offer my thanks and gratitude to the heroes that are currently amongst us as well. All of our veterans, thank you so much for your service and for your sacrifice. To those who are currently serving in our military, thank you for your service and for your sacrifice. To all of your family members, thank you for your service and sacrifice. And I want to thank our public safety officials as well for all that they do to keep us safe in this community as well. Thank you, and I will pass it back to you, Mayor Holliday. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Claudia. And now would you please welcome our State Rep, Jim Calforce.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the city councilors for the opportunity and to the people of Newburyport to be here today on this beautiful Memorial Day. Let me just, the senator and I have, of course, multiple communities that we represent. So this morning we were in Amesbury, then we were in Salisbury, and here we are in Newburyport now. And I had the privilege of taking a picture over in Salisbury with somebody who I really admire as a hero, a great citizen former citizen of Newburyport, current citizen of Salisbury, former graduate of Newburyport High School, class of 1942, World War II vet, Boston College football star, and amazing teacher to so many youth, Bob Booth-Chenard. Being somebody from Amesbury, and Bob being a graduate of Newburyport High School, he knows well the rivalry between the two teams. And let me tell you, being a 1942 graduate of Newburyport High, me being a 1992 graduate of Amesbury High, he still took great pleasure in rubbing it in that his Boston College Eagles beat my alma mater, my former team Villanova, at Braves Field back on October 24th, 1947, 6-0. I just couldn't leave it at between the Clippers and Amesbury. You had to, of course, carry it forth to the Boston College Eagles and Villanova Wildcats. Bob, thank you, and thank you to all of the veterans here today for your service to our great country. And on Memorial Day, I'm reminded of, when I was standing out in front of the post office 3 years ago, and I was collecting signatures to get back on the ballot to continue to serve as your state representative. And my phone started to vibrate, and I took it out of my pocket. It was a family member, and I knew something, was going on. I could immediately feel it, and he told me that we had lost a family member. A young man, he was age 28, and he crashed his Apache helicopter in his service in the Army at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And I remember when we had the send-off down at the South Shore. My dad's from the South Shore, and all the family got together at my grandparents' house in Quincy, and we said to him, good luck, thank you. And his mother, my godmother, hugged him and said, just, come back in one piece. So I know the great sense of loss when people like Sergeant Jordan Shea, Holly Shea's son, dies in service to our country, or First Lieutenant Derek Hines, and the loss that the Hines family feels, and countless others feel when they lose a loved one. So to all of those who serve, to Booth-Chenard, to William Shuttleworth, who wore out 5 pairs of sneakers and walked 3,300 miles from Newburyport to California. Wow, that's amazing. To raise awareness of veterans' needs and how we need to take care of and recognize our veterans for their service to our country. Thank you to all of you, and thank you to the city of Newburyport for the privilege and the honor and the opportunity to serve as your state representative. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. It is a tradition on Memorial Day and Veterans Day to read the names of the veterans who have departed in the last 6 months. When I read the veteran's name and branch of service, a bronze bell signifying that veteran's branch of service will be struck in honor of that veteran. Today's bell ringers are Army James Allen, United States Army veteran, and today's Purple Heart recipient. Navy Kevin Hunt, United States Navy veteran, Navy Vietnam veteran, and Newburyport Veterans agent. Marine Corps Larry Sostak, United States Marine Corps veteran and commander of the local Chapter 40 of the Disabled American Vets. Air Force, William Shuttleworth, United States Air Force veteran and today's guest speaker. Coast Guard, Axel Camden, bosun, mate 3rd class, active duty, United States Coast Guard, Newburyport. David Barton Casanov, United States Air Force. David graduated from Immaculate Conception High School in 1956 and enlisted in the Air Force. He was employed as a draftsman for most of his career. He was active in barbershop singing and sang competitively around the area. He was also a marathoner, having completed the Boston Marathon several times. Skilled carpenter, golfer, bocce player, David had many skills which he shared generously and earned the love of his friends and family. James S. Brady, United States Army. James proudly served 3 years in the Army during the Vietnam era and was stationed in West Germany as well as Colorado. He had a 40-year career as a professional mover with Bridges Brothers here in Newburyport, and he was an avid fisherman and an expert at tying his own flies. An avid reader, David was a familiar face in the local library or as a familiar passerby on the boardwalk. Richard J. Cataldo, United States Marine Corps. Richard served proudly with Marines at Camp Lejeune and at Quantico during his tenure. After the service, he worked as a computer developer for missile guidance systems for electronic boats in Groton and at Raytheon. He was a teacher at Whittier Vocational and also taught English to foreign language students in Boston. He served on the Newburyport Planning Board and was on the board of the local Salvation Army. Noreen Cook Cranberg, United States Air Force. Noreen served with the Air Force during the Korean War and was a charter member of Women in Military Service. She is listed on the roll of the Women's Memorial at Arlington National Cemetery and married John Haft Cranberg while on active duty in San Antonio. Her training as a medical secretary enabled her to voluntarily serve on the board of directors of the Massachusetts Lung Association and numerous other volunteer positions. She was a noted author on genealogy and co-owned Parker River Researchers, which reprinted histories and genealogies. An expression she used was, "We love the things we love for what they are." Thomas Joseph Mahan, United States Army. Tom enlisted in the Army during the Korean War and was awarded the Good Conduct Medal and the National Defense Medal. He began a career as a teacher in the Boston public school system and later served as a teacher and administrator in the Newburyport school systems for 34 years. To this day, many of his former students speak very fondly of him and the positive impact he had on their lives. Tom will be remembered most for his passion for Irish history, reading, patriotism, family, faith, and for being content with the simple things in life. William John Badger Smith, United States Coast Guard. Bill served many years with the Coast Guard and with the Merchant Marine Sea Lift Command. His nautical achievements were notable, and one time towing a vessel for 25 hours in 20-foot waves and 50-mile-an-hour winds. He captained a charter boat business and led tours on cruises through Boston Harbor, the New England coastline, and the Caribbean. An avid outdoorsman and mountain climber, he also led expeditions hiking up Mount Washington for decades. A caring nature and charismatic personality allowed Bill to sustain many meaningful relationships during his too short a lifetime. William Charles Carlson, United States Navy. Bill served 2 tours with the Navy in Vietnam, earning the Vietnam Service Medal and Bronze Star. He also earned the Navy Commendation Medal. Bill was an amicable sort who spent much of his time sharing his thoughts and feelings with members at the Newburyport Senior Center. He was an avid crossword puzzle solver and could engage you on any subject, usually with a dry wit. Eugene Bucky Gammons, United States Navy. Bucky went into the Navy after graduating from Newburyport High School. He served 18 months in Vietnam and spent his working career with Toll Silversmith and the Postal Service. He was a former member of the Newburyport Zoning Board of Appeals and a longtime member of the local Elks. His greatest enjoyment was spending time with family and with friends, and especially his beloved grandchildren. Michael J. Richardson, Jr., United States Air Force. Michael was an outstanding athlete at Newburyport High School. He was a member of the 1998 football championship team, was a 3-time MVP for the track team, and played varsity basketball. He joined the Air Force in 2004 and quickly rose in rank to technical sergeant in unit development management. In 2008, he was deployed to Afghanistan and later was stationed at Pease Air Force Base. In 2020, he was the recipient of the Air Force Commendation Medal, and he was stationed at Hampton Air Force Base at the time he died. Frank A. Casey, United States Army. Frank graduated from Newburyport High School in 1947. After graduating, he joined the Army and was sent to the Korean War. After the Army, Frank joined New England Telephone, where he retired after 38 years. From 1965 to 1969, Frank served as Ward 4 City Councilor. This was the time of Newburyport's Urban Renewal Project, a project that made our city the beautiful city it is today. As a single father, Frank passed to his children the core values of hard work, diligence, trustworthiness, and above all, love of family and love of country. He will always be remembered for being a good man who possessed a keen sense of humor and an open heart. Charles L. Wright, Jr., United States Air Force. After graduating from Newburyport High School, Charles joined the Air Force and served from 1948 to 1952, including 2 years in the Korean conflict. He was a highly skilled automotive engineer and worked with the Bailey Corporation and with the Kingston Warren Trucking. A 50-year member of the Masons, Charles was also at one time an Amesbury police officer and a call firefighter. He cherished his family, including grandchildren and great-grandchildren. John Jack Toomey, United States Navy. Jack was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and made Newburyport his home because it was where his parents were born. He enjoyed a good game of golf, a trip to Ireland, time well spent with his grandchildren, and will be remembered as a man who could tell a good story and a good joke. He was an usher at the Immaculate Conception Church and a member of the Newburyport Knights of Columbus. Arthur Hussey Morris, United States Air Force. He served on the Toomey Air Base in Greenland during the Korean conflict and returned to Newburyport to begin a lifelong career as a craftsman. Many of the city homes are filled with examples of his quality craftsmanship. His family name, Gagnon, adorns one of the stained glass windows at St. Louis de Gonzales, the French church on Federal Street, where 5 generations of the family received the sacraments. To his grandchildren, he was known as Bumpa. To all others who knew him, he was known as a man you highly respected. Edward Ted Foster, United States Air Force. Ted attended Newburyport High School and joined the Air Force soon thereafter. He was employed at the Bailey Company and Amesbury Industries. This coming June, Ted and his wife Barbara would have celebrated 60 years of marriage. He will be remembered for his sense of humor and great one-liners. Ronald Skip Boyd, United States Navy. After graduating from Newburyport High School, Skip served in the Navy and then started a long career as a construction foreman, working mostly in the Boston area. In the late 1970s, he and his wife Carol were involved in the Captain's Quarters restaurant here in Newburyport and with their friends Bud and Mariah. They then traveled across the United States, eventually landing at Lake Amistad, Texas, where they lived for the last 20 years. Paul F. Wells, United States Army. Paul was born in Newburyport and graduated from Newburyport High School in 1943 with the title of Best Looking. He enlisted in the United States Army Air Corps, proudly serving from 1943 to 1946 during World War II. For years, he was a repairman for New England Telephone and Telegraph Company and was a longtime member of Central Congregational Church, having joined in 1946. Michael Edward Noyes, United States Army. Michael was a native Newburyporter who attended the Belleville and Courier schools. His craftsmanship began at Whittier Vocational School, and he embarked on a lifelong journey in construction, building, and remodeling. In the Army at Fort Riley, Kansas, he was referred to as the go-to guy who got things done. He had a wealth of old-school trade knowledge passed down from his father and grandfather, which he has passed on to his son, Adam. He could change the trajectory of a conversation with one word, sometimes with a dry sense of humor. George William Switzer, United States Navy. George sailed aboard the USS Saratoga, an aircraft carrier where he maintained the radar system on F-4 Phantom jet fighters. This led to a career at Digital Computers and a move to Newburyport in 2001. George endured a 7-year wait list to become a member of the American Yacht Club. With the acquisition of his Cape Dory signet, he embarked on countless serene outings and hair-raising adventures. Hiking, kayaking, sailing, and love of family were endeavors that marked George's fulfilling life. He passed peacefully from this life while listening to the music of Queen and Andre Segovia. Payson C. Boyd Jr., United States Navy. Born on Boardman Street and in 1949 graduate of Newburyport High School, Payson served as a radio man aboard a Navy destroyer during the Korean conflict. He taught math for 33 years at the junior and senior high school level retiring in 1994. He was the founding member and officer of the Newburyport Clipper City Toastmasters Club and won an award in 1993 for the most humorous speech. For a time, he was a weekend photographer for the Newburyport Daily News. A devout man, he followed the golden rule throughout his blessed life. Richard P. Penton, United States Navy. After graduating from Newburyport High School in 1968, Richard entered the Navy and began a long and distinguished military career which spanned the Navy, the Army Reserves, and the Army National Guard. He also worked with Lucent Technologies for 30 years and finished his varied career by working with the Newburyport Post Office. Besides being with his family, Richard enjoyed collecting coins and stamps. Michael Nicola, United States Air Force. Michael was an outstanding athlete at Newburyport High School, where his field goal kicking ability earned him the nickname Mike the Toe. After high school, he joined the Air Force and rose to the rank of sergeant before being discharged in 1970. In his personal life, Michael worked in the commercial window industry, founding the Phoenix Window Company in 1980, and finally retiring from the Ipswich Bay Glass Company. My apologies today to any veteran that we might have missed. And please reach out to Kevin, and we can be sure to include you in our next Veterans event. Could we please take a moment of silence in honor of all the veterans, the many veterans we've lost since November, and for their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to all our bell ringers. Joining us today are the color guard for the Coast Guard, a partial color guard for the Coast Guard, and a full color guard for the Newburyport Police Department. I want to thank both those organizations for sending the color guard and participating in the ceremony. And with that as a segue, I would like to introduce Joe Vecchioli, who will speak about a special reference to a 48-star American flag. Joe Vecchioli.
Good morning. Madam Mayor, members of the state and local government, fellow veterans, fellow citizens. Memorial Day is where we remember soldiers who did not get to take their uniform off. I was at Todd Farm a while ago and the flea market, which gentleman was showing me his wares. And he said he had some items that he took from an infantry man who served in Korea. And he held up a 48-star flag. This one. It's kind of symbolic since we have a lot of just talking about Korean veterans today. I recently saw the documentary Etched in Glass. It's about Steve Ross. This is what I remember. On April 29, 1945, Lieutenant Steve Sattler was sitting on his tank eating sea rations. He was part of the American forces that liberated Dhaka. And then he saw Steve Ross. He gave Steve his food, a big hug, and a 48-star flag. Steve Ross was coming out of Dhaka. He was 14 years old, and he weighed 50 pounds. He had survived 10 concentration camps. What Steve Ross got from that hug was hope. This is the first time someone had treated him like a human being since he was 9 years old. Again, he was 14 and weighed 50 pounds. At one time, I believe at Auschwitz, he saw the Nazi guards lining up the children. This gave him a foreboding feeling. He asked to use latrine. Inside the latrine is a row of boards. There are 2 sets of holes in the boards, and this is where you go and you urinate and have a bowel movement, and the urine and feces collected in a pit, and it stays there. Well, when Steve Ross went into the latrine, he was looking for a hiding place. The only place he could think of was in the pit. He crawled through one of the holes, but there was a problem. There was a layer of ice on the urine and excrement in the pit. So he jumped up and down until he broke through. Now he's neck deep in urine and feces. And this is where he thought he was safe. While he was in there, he heard the Nazi machine guns. They were murdering the children. When the noise stopped, he got out. He went to a boxcar siding, climbed underneath, and hung on to the cables and bars. This is how he traveled from Auschwitz to Dachau. When he got to Dachau, he just mixed in with all the other prisoners, and the Nazis could not figure out how they had another extra prisoner. He stayed there until they were liberated. If you go to the Holocaust Memorial in Boston, it's on the Freedom Trail, you will see Steve Ross's name. He was a major motivator to get this built. I was recently talking with somebody about racism and what's going on now, and she said the Holocaust is history. We don't have to talk about it. We defeated the Nazis. And yet today, there are people in the United States who call themselves American Nazis. There was also the Proud Boys. They have a t-shirt, 6MWNE. That stands for 6 million was not enough. At the January 6th riot insurrection at the Capitol, there was a white supremacist wearing a Camp Auschwitz t-shirt. Democracy is under attack now. What we need to do is call our senators and representatives and support legislation, H1S1, Before the People Act. This is for voter access, election integrity, election security, political spending, and ethics for the 3 branches of government. Also, H.R. 4, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. This will strengthen and restore the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And you should also call your corporations, any company you deal with, and tell them you need them to support this also. Corporations have profited and prospered because of the democracy we live in. I challenge the corporations who said that black lives were important to them to prove it with their actions, to support this legislation. Most Americans support this legislation. And to the corporations, these are your customers.
fellow gentlemen that are sitting right in the front here. As you'll know, you go past almost any flagpole in the country today, there is a black flag hanging on that pole. It is a POW MIA flag. The reason that flag is there is because the work of the gentlemen I'm about to introduce to you, who around 1980, what would it be, gentlemen, 1982, 83? I'm asking for their help. Well, whatever, it was that time. Governor Dukakis was the governor. And they went to him with an idea about a flag that would honor POWs and MIAs. And we are here today. I'd like to introduce Dudley Farquhar from Merrimack, Harry Perkins from Topsfield. I can't imagine waking up one morning and thinking it might be a good idea to walk across the country to raise money for veteran causes. Our next speaker, William Shuttleworth, did just that. He walked from Newburyport to California and he raised a significant amount of money for veterans. Besides being an honorably discharged Air Force veteran, William has been a school superintendent. As an educator, he has always advocated that a good education can be the most important part of an individual's life. He is a gifted man, a gifted speaker, a man I am honored to call a friend. Please welcome William Shuttleworth, United States Air Force.
What was the greatest, most beautiful city I walked in when I walked across America. As an easy one, it was the one that I walked out of, Newburyport. It's the most beautiful, gracious city I've ever known in my life. I want to begin by thanking the police officers, the fire department, the first responders, the nurses that put their life on the line. There are very few jobs that you apply for, folks, where you have a caveat that says you are willing, under certain circumstances, to forfeit your life for the protection and safety of others. And the police, the emergency providers, the fire department, and the veterans have done that. It's a deep honor to be part of that crowd. Yesterday, my wife, Patty, got me up at 6 o'clock in the morning and we drove to the Boston Common in Boston, where 37,000 flags are flying, and I would invite you to see it. A flag that honors every single Massachusetts veteran that has ever died in conflict. It is a haunting, tearful sight that brings fantastic gratitude for all that we have in this country. My first awareness of really what veterans and loss was all about was in 1955. I grew up in a small town of 1,000 people, and I was the only paper boy in town, so I knew everybody in town. I was 8 years old. That Memorial Day, all the men and women that were veterans were part of the parade, and afterwards, all the veterans served ice cream to all the boys and girls in town, which was an incredible treat, unlimited amount. I counted all the veterans, and over half of my paper customers were veterans. I tried to think of what that small town was like back in the 40s, when all those men and women were gone, serving America. 10 of them did not come back, which I later found out. Today, in this state, Massachusetts, only 6% of us are veterans. In 30 years, it will be less than 1% because of the number of people that no longer serve the military. Very few people, about 1 million people, serve to protect this country right now. We live in a country, folks, with incredible privileges and freedom. Wouldn't you say that? Yeah. And today we have to remember the men and women that died to win those privileges and freedoms for us. Amen. This day is not to celebrate war at all. It is a time of reflection, humility, and gratitude. So many men and women fought for this country. Over 16 million men and women fought in World War II, and only 300,000 of them are left. And I'm so proud to be a deep friend of Boots Chenard, who was one of those 300,000 that's still with us at the age of 97. He still does a great job every day supporting us. And it's hard to believe that less than 31% of all the men and women who served in Vietnam are alive today. Can you imagine that? 1,000 of those men and women died the very first day they landed on Vietnam. The loss is an incalculable loss to our nation, to our nation's soul, to their families. We can never forget that the air of freedom that we breathe every day comes at enormous cost. And yet many of our wars were ill-advised, triggered by misinformation, politics, and greed. And yet men and women continue to serve proudly and were willing to die for this country. For over a year, our nation has fought another war. And quite frankly, we did a very poor job. Over 600,000 Americans have died of COVID-19. A war hampered by lies, deceit, narcissism, and a lack of national leadership. Perhaps the greatest threat to our nation today comes not from the animus from other countries, but by the lack of courage within our own borders to fight bigotry, racism, discrimination, and the next sure-to-come virus. This city of Newbury, led by our mayor, is committed to address many of these battlefronts. Our city cemeteries are full of men and women who gave their lives for freedom. Many soldiers alive forever in their graves were black, Hispanic, gay, lesbian, white, rich, Jewish, Catholic, uneducated, and yet they fought for the American dream that is repeated every time we say the Pledge of Allegiance. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would ask that we give more than lip service to that pledge. I would ask that we become a nation that is undivided in the demand for liberty and justice for all. Thank you for the privilege of speaking to you, and thank you so much for taking this time during this day to honor the lost veterans of this country. Thank you.
Like I said, he is a good speaker and an educator. Would Sergeant James A. Allen and two members of his family join me up here on the stage? I would like now to move to a significant part of this program today. We are about to witness a very special occasion, the presentation of the Purple Heart Medal, one of our country's highest awards, one that was initiated by George Washington. On entering the armed forces, every man, every woman raises their right hand, and they swear they will put their life on their line to defend their country. Most of those men and women do not give up their lives. Today, we are about to present one of the nation's highest awards to Sergeant James A. Allen. Sergeant Allen raised his hand and swore his life for his country. He did not give his life, but he gave of himself. We are honored to share this event with you, Sergeant Allen. Your actions during war set an example that others, maybe younger than you, may someday look up to and emulate. Sergeant Allen is a humble man. He did not say, I would like some publicity about getting this Purple Heart Award. In fact, far from it. I think I may have persuaded him a little bit by pointing out that the residents of Newburyport, his family, and all here gathered today might really like to say thank you to you, Sergeant Allen, personally. As you may gather from his uniform, Sergeant Allen is also a member of the Newburyport Police Department. I know that all the officers in the department, from the marshal on down, are extremely proud of Sergeant Allen. Your dedication to country and community continues today in your responsibility as a police officer. The Purple Heart is given to an individual who is a member of the United States Armed Forces and who has sustained injuries during hostile action during a time of war. The original Purple Heart was established, as I mentioned, by George Washington in 1782. And the modern version of this award has an image of George Washington embossed on the medal. To make the award presentation to Sergeant Allen, I would like to introduce Carrie Mcdonald Perkins, an active duty member of the Army National Guard, and she is also Sergeant Allen's sister. She will be joined, and I will introduce Kiara Nash, who is also a member of the National Guard and who is also Sergeant Allen's sister. They will jointly present the medal to their brother, if I can properly choreograph it. Please realize this is not something that is done in a civilian setting. This is normally done in the military, and there may well be a very formal ceremony for it. So we have put together today what we feel is appropriate for this. Present. Arms. Order. Arms. Now a round of applause. I would like to introduce Kelly Hogan, who is the Regional Director for the United States Representative Seth Moulton. Kelly? Sergeant, this is directed to you.
Shorter than everyone else here. Good morning, everyone. Mayor Holliday, Senator Zaglio, Rep. Telforce, members of the City Council, Mr. Shuttleworth. I'm grateful to be here with all of you today on this Memorial Day to honor the sacrifice of our veterans. Can't hear? Is that better? Apologies. I'm honored to be here with all of you to recognize the sacrifice of our veterans on Memorial Day. Congressman Moulton is sorry he couldn't be here. He's at an event right now in Beverly, but Sergeant Allen, he specifically asked me to be here to recognize your service on his behalf. I have a special congressional certificate of recognition I'd like to read. Certificate of Special Congressional Recognition presented to Sergeant James A. Allen in recognition of his sacrifices and invaluable service to our country. Signed, Seth Moulton, Member of Congress, 31 May 2021. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Representative Moulton. A few additional thank yous are always in order, and just briefly, I would like to thank the 7th grade of the Knock Middle School, who just last Thursday went out and put 1,300 flags on the graves of veterans at St. Mary's and Belleville cemeteries. I'd like to thank, I do this every time, and you really should get it every time, Tony Finari. Tony Finari is the local Department of Public Services Director, and he's the guy that makes sure not only the veteran cemetery, all the public cemeteries, the darn city overall looks pretty good. He's also the guy who digs up the streets so you can yell at him. Tony, thank you very much. I also would like to thank our local police and fire departments and our local Coast Guard, who provide extra help on a day like this, and they make us feel safe when we are asleep at night. Sadly, emergency personnel are becoming a major part of our lives as we go through this tumultuous period of slaughters and upheaval. You can't say enough about people who volunteer to rush into burning buildings, or volunteer to engage an active shooter, or risk their lives at sea, all to preserve our lives. I'd like a round of applause for our Newburyport Police and Fire Departments and our local government. Today, our American flag, the flag of our country, is flying at half-staff, and the flag is at half-staff in memory of all the men and women and the veterans who are no longer with us. God bless them. If any of you have a veteran, living or deceased, that you would like to have commemorated, we are offering bricks that can be installed across from City Hall in the Veterans Park. After the ceremony, you go out and take a look at them. If you would like to honor a veteran, living or deceased, just contact me at the Veterans Office here in the city, and we'll make that happen. Sergeant, would you have an interest in leading us in America the Beautiful? You did a beautiful job with National Anthem. He didn't know I was going to do this. The reason I'm doing it is, if I tried to lead you, I'd be starting down here, and none of you would be able to keep up with me. Oh, good, one verse. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesties, above the fruited Sergeant Tom and the Newburyport, part of the Newburyport High School band, specifically Alex Lassacher and Cedar Schumacher, will play Amazing Grace. I apologize if I didn't do justice to your names. Thank you very much, Sergeant Bowen. That will conclude this portion of our services. Normally, we would go down to the riverfront. We would also go to the cemetery. I want to inform you, though, that we will be gathering, if you care to join us later on, maybe in about 15 or 20 minutes, at the Veterans Cemetery. I've been informed that one of our scout leaders is a trumpet player, and it is certainly fitting, and thank you very much, sir, for offering to do it. He will play taps at the Veterans Cemetery, and that will be in about 15 or 20 minutes. Is that correct? Yes. Thank you all for coming out here. May you have a happy, healthy Memorial Day and the rest of the year. The sun might come out. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming today. This Memorial Day, we ask that you take a brief moment of silence for all of those who have given their service in the name of our community, our town, our nation, and given their lives for us. Salute.